that, Joe?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the January 13th, 2025 meeting of the Preston County Board of Education. I'll remind everyone that the meeting is live streamed, so it is being video and audio recorded. I now call this meeting to order. We will begin with a moment of silence, and then the Vice President, Mr. Kisner, will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
You'll stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Mr. Martin, we will start with recognitions, and I will turn this over to you.
Okay, Mr. Tatham, we have a number of student recognitions today. It's one of the great things about our daytime meetings. We have access to a lot of our students from Preston High School. We're going to be recognizing for both academic and athletic purposes this afternoon. Our first recognition relates to, we have two students who recently participated prior to the holiday in the Poetry Out Loud competition, which took place at Arthurdale Heritage, and we have the two winning students from that competition here in attendance today, and we wanted to certainly recognize them for their accomplishments. So I would please ask the following two Preston High School students to come forward. Second place in the competition was Mr. Wyatt Bram. If Wyatt could please come forward up to the front. And the winner of the competition, who will also be moving on to the state Poetry Out Loud competition, is Julia Johnson. If Julia could come forward. And Wyatt, Julia, if you could come on up here, the board would like to shake hands with you. We'll get some photos. And again, thank you. Congratulations to both of you for a great accomplishment. Just come on up here, guys. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's just like that.
Yep, I'm good.
There we go. That's good.
Again, if we can give Julia and Wyatt a big round of applause. Mr. Hunter, at the conclusion, can you make sure the students get back here?
Cheers.
Okay, our next recognition is in the West Virginia Department of Education does a student spotlight for CTE. And to my knowledge or my recollection, I don't know that we've ever had a student recognized in this capacity. But today we have Mrs. Aries Jennings, who is part of the Therapeutic Services Program at Preston High School. Aries is a senior this year, enrolled in the Therapeutic Service Career Technical Education Program, is working towards her certifications as a certified nursing assistant, phlebotomy technician, and EKG technician. She is an officer in both the National Honor Society and the HOSA Future Health Professionals Student-Led Organization, qualifying for the International Leadership Conference over the last 2 years. Aries has graduated from the competitive Mon Health and Education Alliance internship program, where she shadowed professionals in various medical departments and even observed a C-section on her own. So, Aries has accomplished a number of things during the time in her studies at Preston High School. And Aries, I would just ask you to please come forward and be recognized for your great accomplishments. And we'll make the rounds again. Get a photo. Let's give Aries a big round of applause. Just one more trip down. We're okay, and finally, we have a number of our fall sports athletes who were recognized with all-state honors during the course of this last season. We do not have our cross-country all-state participants because they had been recognized at a previous board meeting, but these are our student representatives who made all-state in football, in volleyball, girls and boys soccer. So we're going to have each of these students come up and be recognized for their great accomplishments this season. So we'll start off with football. First, we have Ethan Likens. Come on up, Ethan. Ethan was recognized as second-team All-State. We also have Slayton Manco, also recognized as second-team All-State this season. And with them is senior Cody Smith, who is honorable mention All-State. And I believe Ethan and Cody are targeted to attend Fairmont State University to play football next fall. So congratulations, boys. Slayton is moving into his senior year next year. Okay, go ahead and stay up, boys, because we're going to have everyone else come up with you. Okay, next sport that we will recognize is in boys and girls soccer. We have representatives from both teams. For the boys team, Sam Klamas was recognized as honorable mention All-State. If Sam would please come forward. Okay, and from the girls soccer program, we have Cadence Whitehair, who was second team All-State. And we have Ava Turner, who was recognized as honorable mention All-State. And finally, representing the volleyball program was Brooke Snyder, who was honorable mention All-State. And board members will come down. Student athletes, if you wouldn't mind shifting over here, I'd like to shake hands. Now, you get up here with a picture. We'll probably get it behind.
Yeah, man, you can move it out of the way.
Okay, let's give these student athletes a great big round of applause. Mr. Hogan, if you can get them back in the building, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Martin. We appreciate the opportunity to see the results of our students. Okay, next on the agenda, we have delegations. However, there's no one on the agenda for delegations. We do have Mr. McCrum, who has signed up to speak. All right.
Mr. Crum, you'll just need to adjust that mic.
Do you want to do time or do you need time?
I can do time.
Okay. 7 items that I have concerns. Most of them are from your last board meeting since I wasn't able to attend. Mr. Conroy, or what his name is, had questions about cars and vehicles passing the red lights on our buses. According to the state report, 62 last year. That's way too much. I see that you are working on a survey. Mr. Martin, question. I think I saw that it would be going out today to the drivers.
Mr. Crum, it's in all the driver mailboxes. They've been instructed, once they stop in, to provide that to either Mr. Plum or to Mrs. Foley.
That's good. The report to a police officer, are we always going to do it through our officer on site, or are we going to do it? I'm just questioning.
Sure.
You don't have to answer me
Okay.
now. Now, you're working on getting a student leaving protocol process. I notice you've got some of it ready. I don't think your principals are involved in that yet. I think you need to get them involved. I think you also have principals meeting this week.
Tomorrow.
Now, Mr. Tathan made a request for the number of students we have lost to surrounding counties related to pay and benefit matters. A second item that would go with that would be for Mrs. Herstetter, how many have already expressed retirement and intent for compensation. Number 5, you are scheduling a work session with Judge Bright of the Southern District of Preston County. I think one of the questions you need to ask, because right now, Judge Schaefer, takes all of the juvenile cases. Now, is Judge Bright going to pick up some of those? I think it's a question you need to ask. And of course, that could affect any of the students that live in Kingwood South, because the way I understand it, I may be wrong, won't be the first time, even today. Have Mr. Martin, have you been in, or the board been in contact with Mr. Connie, since it was he that brought it up? One of the questions that was raised, what does the board want from schools on fiscal reporting on fundraising? I know at one time there was a limit of 1 for elementary schools, 2 for middle, and 3 for high school. That's school-wide ones. Now, you could have individual programs, but you had to get those through approval through the principal, and then they had to come to the board. So you would have to approve them, anything It's not just the principal, after the 3 for the high school, 2 for middle, 1 for elementary. I think that's something that, one of the questions that you were talking about. The last item is on work orders. You have one that on the 31st of this month will be 2 years old. I think that's unacceptable without a reason being given to you. There are reasons that work orders are not completed. Just as a principle, I know that to be true. But you have 46 were from last year, in 24. You have right now, you have 145 from last year. And so far, this year, you have 40 of them that have been added. Those are very serious concerns for community outside of, not just McMcCrum, but community outside this room, people at schools. But we have had, congratulations, we've had, according to a report, 40 that have been completed in the 6 months, well, almost 6 months of this school year. That's very nice, because some of those are big, $100,000 or more completions. Now that was done, I believe, with levy money. Some of it, or at least if you got it from building, state building code money, the only way you can get it is if you go in and have some money to give them to them, to double up or at least add to it. When we built the schools, 10 years ago, the new school buildings. From the state board, we got $25 million, and we put up another $25 million in the levy, which runs out, in the bond, which runs out, when? In 4 months, 2 months. No, half a year. Yeah, half a year. You don't have, where's that money don't come from that you don't have to spend? Because there's stuff that has to get done or needs to get done. Kids need it, teachers need it, you need it, the community needs it, kids need it. That's my 7. I have a couple other things that I want to bring up with members of the staff, but those are not.
He went past, sorry.
Thank you.
If there's no objection from board members, I would like to respond to Mr. McCrum's 2 of his items. It's not a great request for additional information. Regarding the work session, that's on today's agenda. It's an action item, which we'll do. It's not a work session solely with Judge Bright. It's a work session with all individuals concerned, including Judge Bright and Judge Schaefer. So we'll discuss that later on. Concerning the item regarding school fundraising, right now, again, that's on the agenda for today that we'll discuss later. We can discuss it further, but currently we're not asking anything from the school specifically regarding fundraising. We were just saying that this is a state board policy. I think it's 2401, but I don't know if that's the exact number. And then we may get to that at a later date. Okay, Mr. Martin, or I saw crosses
Yeah,
later.
I just wanted to address, I think just only for clarity for anybody that may be attending virtually, the 62 that was referenced by Mr. McCrum as the number of incidents with our buses being passed, I don't believe that's an accurate way of reading that table. I think that table was saying that 62 people took the survey. It reported that 0 were passed. And again, we're going to talk about that later, so I feel comfortable bringing that up right now. But just for clarification for anybody that only sees the front end of our meeting.
And Mr. Kisner, I would say that, and Mr. Plum, correct me if I'm wrong, that was a survey that was done a singular day out of the year. It was selected to make that determination.
Last year, each county should pick one day in the spring. We picked May 10th, and that is correct. 62 drivers participated, 0 passes on red that day.
All right. Okay, thank you. Here's this to you, Mr.
Thank
Martin.
you.
Okay, the next item, thank you, Mr. McCrum. The next item on the agenda is to approve the agenda. This is an action item. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Okay, moved by Mr. Kisner,
Second.
second by Mr. Zigray. Is there any discussion, correction, or changes to the agenda? Okay, not hearing any, I call the vote.
Voting is open. Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, next on the agenda is presentations. We will start with Mr. Murray. Mr. Murray, and if, just please introduce yourself when you come up to the mic and give your job title.
My name is Matt Murray. I am the maintenance supervisor for Preston County Schools. Don't have a lot to report on today. Just, the guys are just trying to keep the heat on, lights on, the water flowing through the pipes. We do have a state fire marshal that will begin his inspection starting tomorrow in the county. Not sure how long he'll be here, but he does have to do all 10 buildings. We have a federal asbestos inspection scheduled for later on this month. They haven't contacted me yet, but I do know that happens every January toward the end of the month. Me and Mr. Martin have received 2 proposals for architect services for the Kingwood Elementary job. Our only job now is to sit down with the finance lady and the superintendent, assistant superintendent, question them. We've been given a list of questions from the state to ask them, and then my understanding, we just grade them and pick our architect from that based on the grading scale that we got from the state. That's really all I have to report. The guys are still working on as many work orders as they can. Not all of them do get done. There's just so many comes in every day. It's hard to go back but the safety and well-being of the students are always taken first. So they move up the consideration rack as to when they come in. Something, as far as maybe a light bulb being out, that may fall down on, to another day. But we did receive a report. We had some complaints about a couple rooms at the Valley Elementary, and we got a company to come in and do an air assessment quality on that. Was that 2 weeks ago, Brad?
The request was before the holiday, and Pinnacle came in on the 30th of December.
30th of December. We did receive that report back. All in all, the report's pretty good. There was one room that had some lower than normal humidity levels, which could cause, some sore throat, stuff like that. Their recommendation was to get some more air purifiers in there, which we've done. A little extra cleaning on the room, but then was the lab numbers that come in a little elevated. Nothing, the company that come in, everything fell in their scope. So all in all, I was kind of pleased with that report.
Yeah, and Mr. Murray, we'll certainly share, since that concern was brought by the Faculty Senate, we'll report that back to their Faculty Senate because that's who initiated the request.
Right, I just literally received this a half hour ago.
And we felt it was prudent to do that inspection, and the fact that section of rooms was the one that was subject to the flooding back in December of '22.
Yes. That's
Proceed.
really all I have now, except for any questions y'all may have.
Yeah, I got a couple questions. The first one, you mentioned the fire marshal coming in. Need a little clarification for the principals and the teachers. On this one paper I have, the fire marshal states that all doors and exits in the school building shall be kept unlocked and unfastened during school hours. Now, from what I understand, the teachers have been telling me they're instructed to lock the doors or close the doors and lock them. So I just need, I don't know if Mr. Schmidl can chime in on this. Need a little clarification. They're not sure. Did they keep the doors open? Did they keep them closed? They're not sure, and they don't want to get caught up when the fire marshal comes in, having the doors closed or open. So they just want to know what they're supposed to do.
Well, my interpretation that over the years that I've been here is all your outside doors are always locked.
Okay.
Your custodial closets, those should be locked. with the new lockdown devices in place, I don't know. I can't give you a defined answer on that, because I would think with the lockdown devices in place that we would not keep our interior doors locked. I mean, if you got a student in the classroom and needs to dodge into a room, I would think would want to get in there, so.
Mr. Mayor, I
can
think
clarify
Mr.
that
And I think Mr.
tomorrow.
Smittle can speak to that too in terms of the safety
Yeah,
considerations.
there's there's rules that override other rules.
Right.
We have a new fire marshal. I mean, I can definitely ask him that question
Yeah,
tomorrow.
well, the teachers just want to know what they need to do, you
Yeah,
know?
I've heard that concern at some of the buildings myself.
Okay. Second one, I had a call last week about Aurora. You know, they had to shovel out to get in the building. There might have been some concern with the heat up there. When I called the principal, they said they didn't have any heat concerns, so I just wanted to make sure. And are we plowing that parking lot?
Their parking lot's been plowed every day. I've had a
Okay.
guy that's tested the water every day at Aurora. Every room, we had one room that was 65 degrees on the coldest day we had last week. And it's because it's on the end of the building facing westward. It got all the wind on it, but it was still 66 degrees in that room.
Okay, and I just tell them I'd mention it. Something I always bring up to you, the door at Kingwood Elementary, the front door, are we gonna wait for the project?
We're
To
gonna
take-
wait on that project.
We're gonna
yes.
wait on the project, okay.
Yes.
All right.
In regards to Aurora, have we made any headway on that back retaining wall? I think we had to get a bid for it.
Well, I've never
The,
heard.
the back retaining wall at Aurora, have we made any headway on that? I think we had to get a bid for looking at that.
I
And
put the bid out in the paper, did not get any returns on it. So I'm going to just call some people I know, do the 3 bids, see where they come in. If their bids come in too high, then I'll have to post it again in the paper.
Yeah.
And do the proper thing. But I think we can come in under from having to set down, do the competitive bids and so forth like that, even if we do it in 2 phases. But, we're gonna it will be addressed.
Okay. And then the only other, since you're here today, had some reports that, from a school where essentially the observant was saying that we had maintenance men come to clear out a gutter and they didn't bring a ladder, so they left and they had to come back. So I'm going to use that as an example. I have nothing to substantiate it. I don't have dates. I don't have names. I don't have anything. And that's why I said, like, there's really nothing that I know of that you can do with that on its face with just that subset of information. But my question to you would be is, if a maintenance person is sent out to do work and they can't complete the job, are you given a report of why and how and determined about rescheduling? Like, is there a process that would catch something like that to determine inefficiencies in our processes for doing maintenance?
The only time that I could think they wouldn't be able to complete a project is if they did not have the material, such as a new part needed ordered and so forth. And that is phoned into me and the secretary, Miss Brenda, and ordered in a timely manner and then, back out. I can't believe that somebody would have went to do a gutter knowing that you had to have a ladder and not have a ladder on the truck. I find that a little disbelievable,
Yeah.
I mean, if we go clean the gutters, it's with the bucket truck usually anyway, so.
Okay. But there's nothing in if somebody goes to do an order and they can't fix it and it's material based, I understand. They're going to report back to you and say, we need this material ordered. But if there's any other circumstances or anything that gets reported anywhere that says, hey, this job was started or couldn't be complete, I mean, like we know that there's jobs that get carried over because they're out of the scope or, things of that nature, but.
It may carry over to the next day, but I mean, ultimately, it's got to get fixed one way or another if it's something emergency,
And Matthew, too, the individuals who are working on the project, they can update the system as to they weren't able to make the repair based upon lack of materials or whatever. They are able to do that.
Are they required to do that? Like, are they required to so that we are keeping track of that,
Well,
those situations? I mean, I can imagine why somebody wouldn't want to self-report we didn't bring a ladder. If that occurred, again, I have nothing
Yeah.
to prove it, but if that occurred, is there a requirement that when somebody starts a task that they update with where the situation is?
They may not be updating if they don't get the project done that day. They may not be entering that, didn't have time to complete the project or so forth, but they normally go back the second day, that would be the first thing on their list unless something else took precedence over it. But, yeah, I mean, I doubt that they're reporting, wasn't able to get that done today, we'll continue tomorrow. I doubt they're reporting that on the thing. There is a space they could do that, didn't get that done, but with 7 guys, there's not a lot of time for that.
Yeah, yeah. Do you do much review of like of situations like somebody going and fixing a plumbing thing and that on average should take 2 hours, or fixing a refrigerator on average do we do any metrics of that nature as far as efficiencies of turnaround?
Not that I know of, no.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anything else?
I just had a question, and maybe you can answer this. Who is doing our snow removal? I mean, is that our maintenance guys, or are we contracting that out?
We contract that out.
Contract.
We are contracting out.
We have a guy, Terry Allen, that is, Mr. Baker does it up there, and then the rest of the county, the only ones that bid on the rest of the county was Spikes of Masontown.
My only request, and this is a personal request, the handicap accessible parking area, we had a ball game last week. Friday? Was it Friday? And they had shoved all of the snow on top of the ramp to get up from the handicap accessible.
Okay, I seen it's been cleaned out since then.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I did see that.
I myself, one game, did it with another dad, but this game, luckily, we got it taken care of before the game. So I don't know if that can be reiterated to them, especially, I mean, the parking lot was a mess, and not because of them, it was just a
Yeah,
mess
we got
because of the way it
exceptional
was.
amount of snow.
Exactly, but I feel like of all areas, that just needs to be,
I'll make sure he's aware of that fact.
thank you, I appreciate that.
Anything else?
I have a question. To reiterate what Mr. McCrum asked earlier about the ceiling tiles needing replaced in Brewston, I believe, it's been on the maintenance order since January 31st of 2023. And I know there's important things that take precedence, you said so, but is there a reason, is there like a roof leaking that they're not getting to change those ceiling tiles because it's just going to waste material?
No, I believe them ceiling tiles has been replaced. The one that you're talking about, the guys may have not have went back 3 years to put it in there the day they fixed it. But we do not leave total areas of ceiling tiles out. They may not be putting it on there as complete. That one there rings a bell because there was like a 3-week, 4-week period that went by, and the lady actually called us back and reminded us something got overlooked. We had to go back. We did put them in. But there'll be a ceiling tile out here or there. In the summertime, we do have some condensation leaks. It's because the insulation's been knocked off the piping above the ceiling. You got the cold water running through the pipes, you got exposed pipes. You're gonna get some condensation and some leaks. We try to keep up. We order skids of ceiling tile at a time. Every one of our new buildings or newer buildings, anywhere that we've asked for SBA money, there's a yearly inspection that goes along with that from the state. And trust me, they remind us of all of our ceiling tiles that needs replaced when they go into buildings. But, we do the best that we can with the ceiling tiles. If some of them gets missed here or there, yes, that's possible.
Well, I just didn't know if it was an underlying issue with something else. And
No,
they were
I
going to
mean,
fix it
there's-
until another problem
The
was.
fire marshal would not permit us to leave the ceiling tiles out completely in a room. That's totally against fire marshal rule right there, so, I would be liable, the board would be liable or something like that, so, one here or there, not a whole room, no way.
So how do you determine what takes precedence for a repair? I understand, like, if a water leak, you want to go fix a water leak.
Well,
But
pretty
the one
much-
on here, and the reason I'm asking, because if you scroll down, there's one in the kitchen at Preston that says has mold on it. And the fact that we have mold in rooms is not a healthy situation
Right,
for
and
anybody.
when we
to work in.
receive those ones that have the mold on it, we try to address those almost immediately. Get them out of the building, see what the problem is, try to address that. It's always been my policy, safety first. If there's something that comes in work order wise that could get a kid hurt, that's gonna take precedence over a ceiling tile,
Sure.
And that's just, there's no policy on it, that's just been safety and security of the kids has always been our first.
Okay.
I just have one issue, Mr. Murray. Looking at the long-term forecast, it looks like about 9 days from now, we're going to have negative temperatures. I know 2 years ago when it was negative 18, I believe, West Preston had a pipe break and then it caused flooding. I'm sure you guys are planning to look at not only that area to make sure it doesn't refreeze, but any area with negative temperatures.
We was out there all last week putting extra insulation in the ceiling. There's so many people that's working in these buildings. Every time the cable guy goes through, he tears down some more insulation. Don't necessarily tell us when they tear it down, so. But we, at least 3 different days last week, we was at streets 3 different days buying insulation, trying to, yes, we are aware of that. We don't want to push them more water with the tables. So, yeah.
Okay.
And the forecast doesn't look good. It doesn't look good for that kind of stuff.
I have one last thing.
Yeah.
On the annual update, scrolling through, of course, a lot of the stuff for Phillipsville has been crossed out, but we've left a few things on there for Rollsburg in anticipation to hopefully retain that building for future use. Are we going to wait and see if we are able to retain that building before we spend that much money, or are we going to?
I think the majority of those were level 3. So I think certainly we would look at the long-term prognosis of whether we would retain the building before we would carry out any of those projects at Rollsburg.
Okay, that was,
Yeah, if you're talking about that chiller unit there, yeah.
that's a
Yeah.
lot of money to spend
Sure.
if we're not going to be able
Right,
to
yeah,
use the
we'll
building.
never spend that kind of money and then not use the building.
Right. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Murray.
You're
We
welcome.
appreciate it. Okay, next on the agenda is Mr. Sines. If you'll just please introduce yourself. And this is for a technology update.
Good morning, or actually good afternoon. My name is Paul Sines. I'm the
Can't really hear
director.
you that well.
My name is Paul Sines. I'm the Director of Technology, Network Administrator, and Technology Specialist for the county. Don't have a whole lot to report on to you. I guys gave you a handout that has what our work orders have been so far for the half of the school year. It's still on pace for the same as in the past years, about 3,200 work orders per year is normally what we get. The one thing I just want to bring to your attention is last year, 69% of the work orders were done between 0 and 2 days. This year, it's down to 53%. I mean, we lost a technician. You can tell, I told you at the beginning of the school year, it probably was going to happen, and you can see the numbers here back it up. I mean, we're still getting 53% of the work orders done in the first 2 days that they're submitted on there. So the guys are still working hard on it. On the back side, second page right there, just giving you a breakdown of devices that came in that needed repair parts on that students had to pay for. 106 broken screens. I still have 28 broken screens waiting for payment on. 22 lost chargers, 3 keyboards, 2 system boards, and 2 devices that's been lost. Comparisons to last year, our numbers are actually better. There was 134 broken screens so far this year, 347 last year, so the numbers are improving. And a lot of that is due to the high school. So far this year, there's only been 14 broken screens at the high school. Last year was 91, so that number's way down. And this is a question for Mrs. Castillo and Mr. Manco. Do you think the new cases are the case? I know.
They're bulk cases, but they're staying on.
I know, Colson, you have the new case right there where you can just throw it right in your backpack.
Right, yeah.
Brooklyn, you still have the old case where you have to slide in on it. Would you prefer the new cases or do you like your old case?
I like the old ones just because it fits my bag better. But when I'm using my computer, I don't really, I don't take the case out of the bag. Like the case stays in my backpack and I open the case in the bag, but I think that's different for every kid.
It is. I mean, that's what I'm just seeing right there. We just wanted to try a different case out this year because I know a lot of the high schoolers, they know it's time to take their laptops out and throw the case away and just throw them in their backpacks anyway.
Right.
And that's the reason why I
a lot
went
more
with it.
people
I
do
think
it than
that's
what we
more
think.
common.
So I mean, like my case that I don't have to actually have a case with, it's just the one the laptop and I can just throw it in my bag. I prefer that over that.
And I think it actually helps out having that type of case right there because with Brooklyn's cases, a lot of times kids just stuff other things in there and it puts too much pressure on the screen, whereas this has more movement with it. Now, thoughts on that is, should I take it down to, say, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade?
I don't think it's not altering anything. I like them better. I had cases 3 years. Most people just take their laptops out of the case anyways and put it in your backpacks because we have enough to carry without carrying a big bulky case. So
All right, I mean,
prefer
it's
them
been,
with the cases on the laptop compared to the black cases that we had before.
Well, for middle school, I will say person, you're only allowed to go to your locker once a day. So you're carrying around all of your supplies all day, and you're not allowed to take your backpack to class, whenever I was in middle school. So I like the case that we have now because it has the handle on it, and you can like carry it easier, and you're not like carrying a big pile of books with it. So I think maybe for middle school, the old style cases might be better.
All right, I mean, like I said, I'm just getting opinions and stuff on there. I've asked some middle school students too. I thought I'd ask you guys, since you guys had the two different style cases, to see which was better for it. But I think the new cases seem to be taken down on those broken screens, especially at the high school with it. So it helps out on there.
Mr. Sign.
Yes.
So like two of my kids, just as you're looking for input, my one son has like what I have, just a nylon that you slide into. My daughter has one that is a harder and it
case
has a zipper
on
that
all
goes around
times.
it. So that case has an extension of about 2 inches that comes up where I'm guessing that the charger would go
Correct.
into is the purpose of it. So I would say number one, makes it really hard to stack, which may be a benefit because it may protect screens.
That's
So,
the
like,
design of those
maybe a
cases
feature,
right
not
there.
a bug.
Right.
But like if you, the only other thing is, I have to, when I go to charge hers, it's very hard to put a charger in it without, and keep the stress from, you and I both know that those charging ports are one of the number one things to break off secondary to the screens, right? It's very difficult to put a charger in there without having pressure in some way on that. So again, I don't know if that's either of the ones that they have, but I'll just tell you from my observation, when she started bringing that one home this year, I was like, well, this is, as a computer guy, I was like, this is terrible. I don't like this because of
There's
that
two
stress.
different designs for a reason why that case is on, or one, that case is on all the time.
Yeah.
These two don't have that case where you don't see it on all the time with it. But it also, I like having those cases, the one that Brooklyn has, plus the one that your daughter has, is the chargers are there, so, and I've had requests from teachers, hey, we need extra chargers in our room because kids are not being responsible and bringing the chargers, even though there's a spot for the chargers to come to school with them. So, I mean, it's back and forth trying to find that right balance, the right types of cases. 'Cause like I said, I've tried different style cases to see which works best with it. I think in the high school, I think we're going to stick with the harder plastic case, so that way they can just throw them right in their backpacks, which happens most of the time. But I'm trying to figure out what to do for 3rd and 4th grade, and also what to do with 6th, 7th, and 8th.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to get opinions and stuff on that before we order them for this next year with it. So like I said, I'm gathering input with it because that's what I have to do on here, figure out what is the best, try to limit the cost down on here. And like I said, when it comes to teachers wanting extra chargers in their classroom, it's problematic because you should be teaching responsibility for kids, and kids don't show, all right, I don't want to bring my charger. I mean, my laptop's dead. And that has happened a lot. We've had a lot of work orders this year saying, hey, the laptop won't turn on. The student says, oh, I charged my laptop. When you get the laptop, it's totally dead. As soon as you put a charge on, it pops right on. So, I mean, you have to figure out where that balance has to come into it. Then, the other thing I listed are projects for the remainder of the year and summer we're planning on doing this year. Plan on upgrading all the network switches and UPSs at all the 8 schools in BOE. We're upgrading cabling at Brewston. The rest of Preston High, we did CT last year, and the Morgan Street of Kingwood, and also here at the board office. Upgrading the access points to tear out of Kingwood and Brewston. Looking at replacement devices for 3rd, 6th, and 7th grades for next year. We just put an RFP out for our wide area network. We still have one more extension year with Frontier, but with closing Fellows,ville and possibly Rollsburg, we're looking to see if we can get better prices and stuff for the next 5 years on that. And then finally, on the phone systems, they're actually supposed to be here on Wednesday to start installing our network switches on that. So hopefully it's done by end of the month, so we'll have our new phone systems in place. Hopefully. They keep delaying it, but they're supposed to be here on Wednesday to start. Any questions for me?
Is there any coordination between you and Mr. Murray? Like when he says somebody comes in and does cabling and they may not put the insulation, I didn't take that as accusatory, but is there a process between maintenance and tech where you sign off on each other's things or something, somebody reviews to make sure? Because again, a contractor comes in to run cabling. I know you try to do a lot yourself, but when something like that happens, is there any quality assurance or process that goes through to make sure?
There isn't right there. I mean, I try to make sure when we have stuff on there, I try to go back through and check and make sure it's done correctly before I ever sign off on payments for the bills and stuff on there. If it's not, then we say, hey, this isn't done right, and they have to come back for it. Just like even with our cameras and door systems, I'm getting the invoices in, I'm like, I'm not paying this invoice, you're not done yet.
Yeah.
And then we have to come back on there, but no, there is no really any between the two departments on there.
Okay. I mean, I don't know if that's something, Mr. Martin, we want to, I mean, again, I feel for both of you because you're both in the same space trying to get the same results, but something that makes sure that, like you said, I appreciate, we shouldn't pay an invoice until somebody's done a job right and finished what they did. And I'm sure our contracts say they're supposed to leave it in the state that they found it in. And, and that kind of stuff. I know it's hard for either one of you. I just didn't know if
And
there's
it
some way
is,
to.
and just like with putting all the new cabling and stuff in there, we have to pull all the old cable out because state code says if the cable's not used, it can't stay up in the ceilings.
Yeah.
It has to come out. And you won't believe how many old cables and stuff I still find in the ceilings. I'm like, this isn't in use anymore, and yet it's still there. And there's just problems on it, and the contractors and stuff, even though they're supposed to pull out, they won't pull it out. That's why you have to go back and verify things are done correctly on it.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Sines. Okay, next, Mr. Schmidl. And same thing, please introduce yourself when you get up there. This is for a safety and security update.
Nick Schmidl, Director of Safety, Emergency Preparedness, and Title IX Coordinator. First, I guess I'll answer, Mr. Zigray, what you were talking about with the doors shut and locked. So what I've put out is a recommendation. It's not a policy yet, that doors are supposed to be locked and shut during instruction. That's coming from the state and all the trainings I've been to. Number one deterrent, if there is an active shooter, is a locked door. And so it's not a policy right now, but I can see from the state that's going to be something that they push, that they want, and they will mandate that's happened. I don't see how it would fall anywhere against fire code because the door is shut. If the fire alarm goes off or settle that's actually a barrier for a fire, is having a shut door to keep the fire from that. So I don't see how that would be an issue with fire marshals. If that answers that, Mr. Zigray.
Well, I think they're getting mixed messages. I mean, they're getting one paper saying all doors in the school building should be kept unlocked and unfastened. You're telling them to close them. I see your reasoning for that. But I think the teachers are concerned that they don't know what to do. And principals are probably giving them both messages. And then now you're stuck with, what do I do when the fire marshal does come in? I don't want to get written up.
Right.
And
Is there any chance the confusion is on which side of the door you're on? Like, doors have to be unlocked from the inside going out for fire marshal purposes, but they have to be, but your desire to have them locked from the outside coming in would be, now again, classroom doors may not, I don't know how, I mean, I assume it's the same thing. Classroom door, you have to be able to open to get out because of
Correct.
fire.
You have
So-
to have that egress so you're not locked in.
Yeah.
And all of our doors are set up that way that you can get out of the door.
And that's one thing, we had to get fire marshal approval before we employed the night lock devices. That was a requirement. Those were all fire marshal approved before we were able to install those.
Correct. And that might be, you might be correct on that, but it might be the other way. And it's certainly, that would be an issue if there's a door that's locked that you can't get out of that, because you have to be able to get out. But blocking someone from coming in, and certainly a lot of the fire doors, you can actually set that way. So if they shut one way, you can't get through, but you can get out of it. So you can't stop the egress to get out of a building, but to get into certain parts, you can't lock that out.
But you're suggesting, just while they're talking, you're suggesting that literally every classroom lock their door while class is in session.
Correct. Yeah, during instruction. That's the number one deterrent, to keep somebody out. The night locks are great, and they also check if a sub would be in the building. They don't have a key to it. They can put that in there, but it's also another layer if there was something going on that they could put in to reinforce that door. You know, if it wasn't locked or for some reason somebody's able to get through that lock, they wouldn't be able to get through the night lock. So it's just an added layer of safety that we've put into all the schools.
And you're under the impression that all teachers have a key to their own door. Is that accurate?
They should. Is it accurate in every school? I'd say no.
I think it depends
Right.
on the school location for sure.
I'm not holding it, but I'm
Depends on
saying.
location.
Yeah.
Because that's a big cost thing, the amount it takes to make all the keys and how much it costs per each one comes into an issue with that. But I think most of the schools do.
Does somebody have a master list of that?
I would assume that Mr. Murray has a master list of the keys. I don't make any of the keys, so if I need any made, I go through him.
Now, I would tell you, I'm sure there's teachers that don't have keys. Not saying, they shouldn't, but also, you have subs coming in there. Now, I've gone to schools in other counties where they give me the key, and some schools don't give me the key. So, I mean, if you had a fire drill or a shooter and you had a sub, you put a sub in a very precarious situation where, what do? I don't have a key to lock that door. And that's just another situation beyond what we're talking about.
Correct,
But-
and the night lock, I think, helps out with that.
Yes, it does,
Because it's
yeah.
in every room, so they can lock the room.
Okay, you want to jump in?
So as far as the high school goes, Second thing, as far as keys go, I've asked them if they don't have a key to ask me, and it's Mr. Holleran in maintenance is the one who does all the keys for me. So he has a master list of what each door is and what key goes with what, just to answer that question.
Thank you.
Any other questions on that? Next, looking at purchasing metal detectors, I've talked to you guys before about that. Kind of wait and see with the levy stuff, obviously with that not passing. Looking at different funding, there is a grant that Mr. Martin told me about today that I can apply for to.
Yeah, board members, it was in the superintendent's update today. There are, it's $1 million worth of grants. I think they would award the project total is going to be up to 50,000 requests. And certainly that could be, I feel like we will pursue that. The grant proposals are due by January 31st.
Right. Cost of that, they're around 17,000, 20,000. The ones that I've looked at for the high school, I'm looking at 5 is what I need to get started. So we're in the 85,000, 100,000 price range to get to high school with metal detectors to be able to screen everybody that comes in.
Now, you're talking about putting these in, or we're looking at putting these in?
Put them in, yeah. So the ones I've been looking at, there's a couple different ones. One of them was a lease program, which isn't going to work because the price was like $100,000 per year that you're leasing it. So I'm looking at a one-time purchase. We purchased the equipment. Those would be around $90,000 for that. And they would be VRs. The ones I'm looking at are mobile, so we could use them for events. So you could pull them out and put them everywhere you need to in the county. They're the same ones that Mon County uses, and I've gone to Mon County and actually went through some of their training and seen how they worked.
So you just want to use those for deterrent for any student that might be carrying a weapon?
Correct.
So when we had the situation with the active shooter threat, I was told there was people showed up here, there was other doors that were being opened. So how is just the metal detectors going to be enough of a deterrent to keep the school safe? Like, I'm all against all for safety, and I'm not against the metal detectors, okay? I'm just saying, if we have other doors that are accessible with no metal detectors, these 4 aren't going to help us.
And that is, human error is always a problem that you run into when it comes to safety. And students or staff letting somebody into the building that's not getting screened in through the front like it's supposed to be is an error that happens. And I've seen it, and I've tried to correct anytime I have seen somebody get inside the building that's not supposed to with that. But we do have a lot of entrances at the high school. Not every site is that way. There are certainly a lot of schools that it's more condensed and you don't have as many exteriors. That doesn't happen. The high school, the way it's designed, we have a lot of exterior doors, and unfortunately that is a problem.
That's what I'm getting at with the 4. Well, you want 5. You want one for a backup, if I remember you talking earlier. You want to use 4 and have one for a backup.
So one would be in the man trap that stays there all the time. So anybody that would come into the building would get screened through at all time. And that would also be your backup one that you'd have. And then the other 4 would be placed out in the concourse that they'd be used when we're bringing the students in.
I just think we need some kind of other plan with those metal detectors. Say 2 people are plotting to do a shooting. One comes through the metal detectors, they can come to any one of these other doors and open it up and give access. Like, we have to figure out how to lock this place down aside from just the metal detectors.
I mean, besides removing a whole bunch of doors.
And,
but you can't. So we can't lock those doors. We can't remove
is there a way that makes them, they're all keyed to open?
So I guess, I've said it before, I think a metal detector is a complete waste of time and money. Like, the amount of ways that I could get a gun in this building if I wanted to without going through the main door is far more than the metal detectors are ever going to prevent. At the end of the day, if we're buying metal detectors, from my position, you're buying it as an insurance policy against a lawsuit, because that's the only thing that it's going to provide you.
I'd agree with that.
I just, in all reality, it's not actually a feasible or realistic problem solution. It's.
And the only way I think that I can think of that you could stop that and really condense the entrances of where it's be is alarm every other door. So that door comes open, that a loud audible alarm would go off. That way it would be an emergency door. So if that door went off, you'd set off an alarm.
How much would that cost?
The units I looked at that you install are around 125, I think, a piece with that.
Before we would go down the route of actually purchasing the metal detectors, could we see a proposal on that?
Yeah, alarming all the doors?
Yeah, I mean, I think listening to two of the board members here, I mean, there's a big concern that if you have all these doors and somebody pops a door open for another student, then you've defeated all of your defenses over there.
Understood, but I would say we've had door contacts on the doors for years. It's a matter of, do we have someone to sit there and continuously monitor said doors? Correct, Paul? I mean, our previous doors, we have door contacts. Now, I think a lot of those were probably removed through with the new door installations. An audible alarm. Yeah, the door contacts just simply, you could sit there and monitor said door was open at this time of day. I mean, we had that capability.
So what I'm thinking,
Correct. Well, we have a door of that nature at that stairwell in the back section of the gym. It's the,
There is one on there.
I'll say that's the type of system you're talking about, though, correct? Okay.
So how would you alarm and disarm that?
It's keyed.
Each door would have its own keypad?
Yeah, they have a key that turns that on.
No,
And
I
there are
think
different
that
settings.
with the metal detectors together would be a great deterrent. I'm not against the metal detectors. 'Cause,
Correct.
I mean, you still have people that's going to walk through the door with stuff in their pockets or their waistband or whatever that you could catch with a metal detector. But until we solve or come up with a solution and solve the problem with all these exterior doors being accessible, it's like Mr. Kisner said, it's really not going to help.
Well, and I just, again, pointing back to our previous meeting, and I don't have my numbers that I'd calculated at the time, but I mean, the odds of somebody being in a school shooting is .0001. Like, your job is very important.
No, but I agree with you. Yeah,
I'm just saying,
that's-
like, in all reality, we have to weigh the fiscal note with the reality of the problem. Or with the reality of the risk. Like, it's the most worst situation that you can imagine when it occurs, but it is an extremely, extremely, extremely low likelihood of occurring.
Correct. And that is true.
I think also if we're talking about all the exterior possibilities we have, we do also have to remember that we have plenty of shops in our CTE ring that have big doors. If somebody wants to park up at the bus garage or park somewhere else and walk around, how are we going to monitor those doors? If you walk into one of those shops, you can walk out the classroom door. I mean, those shop doors stay open most of the day when they're working anyway, so putting an alarm on those wouldn't do any good unless we're gonna put a metal detector in each of those and have them screen through there. I mean, that's another issue we have.
And he is correct, because we do have people leaving all the time for other stuff and then come back through during the day. ROTC, for instance, all those kids go out and they have to come back. Same thing with the slaughterhouse. They're all coming out and come back into the building.
I mean, the doors with their alarms, great start, but I think if we're gonna talk about completely securing the campus, like you and Mr. O'Gott or Mr. Kisner said, our CTE classrooms that have the big doors that open up are points of entrance that would be hard to cover anyways.
But the dogs that work on the doors with these buzzers on, how are you going to do with the ones that have card readers?
Yeah, you could.
People going out those doors,
Right.
they got doors, that's a manual exit right there. You obviously can push it open, someone can come out.
And we couldn't alarm every door. There's just no way you can do that because of that. There are several card reader doors that you have in.
I mean, I think ultimately from this conversation, I assume you already know this. I mean, at the end of the day, there is no foolproof solution other than putting kids in a box and you don't, I mean, right? Like, same thing as parenting. There is no perfect solution to any of it. At the end of the day, you're coming to us with proposals that you think is the wisest expenditure of our money for the most return that we can get in those situations, right? I mean, like.
Yeah, if I build a school, there'd be no windows and there'd be solid steel doors.
Yes. We're in the same boat. My
Right.
wife
I agree.
disagrees, and that's why
Wouldn't be
we
very
didn't build a house.
aesthetically pleasing there,
Yeah,
Mr.
yeah.
Schmittle.
It would be the ugliest building, but it would be secure.
I have a question, and I'm sure you thought this through, but let's say if the metal detectors were put in place in the front doors and the students are going through that every day, who would be in charge of manning the metal detectors, I guess you could say? Because silly things can set those off, like every time I go through a metal detector, sometimes my belt buckle will set it off, or just all kinds of things. And I feel like with articles and reports of school shootings I have read, a lot of the times the suspected shooter is normally a student. So let's say it goes off and a child has a weapon or something they're not supposed to have. What's the course of action the person manning the metal detector would take?
So, and I have thought about that. And I've talked to Mon County, how they run theirs and how they do it. So staff runs the metal detectors. And if one of them does go off, and these have different settings that you can do that, basically what it's looking for, whether a firearm, you can tune it all the way down to look for like a razor blade. So you can definitely put those settings on it so that your belt buckle wouldn't be set it off, just a firearm would be set that off. In the event that one would go off, the resource officer would be there and he would come and watch as the screen was being done with it.
So the resource officer is going to be there every morning?
Should be, or me. Any more questions on that? So with the active shooters, kind of on the same lines of that, we've been using Alice for the past 3 years. This is the third year of it. It is very expensive. So I'm looking at shifting next year to different programs that are free. There's a couple of them. The FBI pushes their alert program, which is very similar to Run, Hide, Fight. Both of those are free programs to use versus the around $13,000 that we're paying right now for Alice.
But in reality, Mr. Smittle, like, there's not a huge discernible difference in the protocols of those
They're
programs.
very similar. Like all three of those are very, very similar. The big difference is what Alice gives you with the online capabilities, and they added a bunch of other trainings that you can do. So everybody has access. They can go in there and take any of these classes they want. There's a bunch. So that's
Which we would have a
what that
mechanism
process
of running that through like our safe schools modules where we could better track like training completions and things of that nature.
Correct, yeah. So I think it would be more feasible to go to something like that, especially with the levy not passing. If I can go to a free program versus, 12 to 13,000 for one, I think that would be the smart ship to go to.
You mentioned the additional trainings. Do you know of any staff or anyone in the county that are utilizing those extra trainings currently? Or are they just doing their standard?
They're doing the standard. So that's another reason why I'm looking at it, is because I can actually go in and see as administrator and see what courses. There's maybe 2 or 3 teachers that have actually done beyond what's given to them. And I understand prior law enforcement, I was given stuff and I had access to other things and I did what I was asked to do and that's all I did. So I kind of get that mentality, so. Intruder drills, we've been conducting them. High school and Kingwood have done them. Central has not. However, they have done several holds in real life situations that they put their school in, which kind of checks that box of doing a drill. So it's either something real or not doing it. I have a South scheduled to do theirs. I'm trying to get all those done because I want to do 2. So all the principals have been told to give me a date so that we can do their intruder drills. The one that we have done, actually, for them not doing them that often, did pretty well with how they did those. Unfortunately, I've had several Title IX investigations this year, and I've kind of got most of those wrapped up, including a bunch of other investigations that I've been doing. The last thing I'm looking at doing is we've had a couple medical emergencies at the high school. And actually, one of my nurses came to me and asked me if there's a way we could get go bags to get in place at each of the schools. So the go bag would basically be your first aid plus your basic vitals to take that. So they would have that, not have people running to do that. So they can grab one bag and take it to it. So I'm looking at purchases for each school, at least one of those go bags. Any questions?
Do all the schools have the automatic defibrillators?
Yes.
And they're all accessible and out somewhere where they would need to be? And
Correct.
Are they checked regularly to make sure that they're
They are
operable?
It's getting worked on. I actually just ordered 3 more and a bunch of pads because there are some expired pads with them. I'm working to get a better system of checking it instead of it just being me to do it, so people in the schools are checking to do that.
Correct. Several of the schools have also received the portable AEDs, particularly those schools have requested it for like outdoor athletic programs and things of that nature.
Yeah, Central was, I think, the first one that requested that. So they have theirs in school, and then they got 2 additional for sports because now with SSEC, every sporting place has to have one. Close accessible, I'm saying within a 3-minute response to get it to wherever they're at. So the ones I just purchased for the high school, that's where they're going to be put in place with that. But
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other questions?
I'd just like to pass on to you, I got to talk with a parent that you'd done an investigation in one of our systems with, and they were highly complimentary of your professionalism and just how good it was for the school to have somebody with your experience that was able to handle those investigations. So just a thank you as a parent in the community from another parent that was just passing it on to the board.
thank you.
Thank you, Nick.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have approval of the minutes from the December 16th, 2024 meeting. This is an information and an action item. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Okay, moved by Mr. Kisner,
Second.
second by Mr. Hovatter. Any discussion, corrections, or changes? Not seeing any. I call the vote.
Voting is open.
Because I wasn't here, do I hit abstain? Is that what I do?
Yeah, if you weren't present for it, just abstain.
Okay.
Motion passes 4-0 with one abstention.
Next on our agenda is the service personnel agenda. This is an action item. It's recommended that the board approve the service personnel agenda. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Okay, moved by Mr. Hovatter,
Second.
second by Mr. Kisner. Okay. Mrs. Varner, is there anything that you would like to say? Okay. Mr. Martin?
No.
Okay, any questions from board members?
What's an LOA? Bus
Leave of
operator?
absence.
Absence.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, call the vote.
Voting is open. Motion passes 5-0.
Next on the agenda is the professional personnel. This is an action item. It's recommended that the board approve the professional agenda. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Kisner,
Second.
second by Mr. Hovatter. Mrs. Varner, is there anything you'd like to tell us? Okay, Mr. Martin?
No, just in the fact that we're approaching the second semester, so we will see some shifts in terms of people who have bid on positions that had to work through the conclusion of the first semester. That's probably more applicable to service personnel. We do have some I'm always bad with this, CTRs coming in filling positions at Terre East Preston. I know right now we have 2 there, correct?
So I assume one of those is the kindergarten, the other one is the science, math, okay. So like in Terrata, I know they were excited, they put out an announcement, we've got some that are expected to be in some of these positions in the long term. Those positions though will stay on here in case a certified person, like they're still on there today, but I know that the announcement was that there was people starting in those positions today. Is that because we still leave those open in case we find an actual certified person to fill them, or they'll be removed next board meeting from the list?
So the one kindergarten position will remain on there because we do have an opening still in for the small kindergarten classroom. So it will stay on there. The other kindergarten comes off because the CTR is in there and they are a certified.
That's correct.
teacher. So that one was removed. The math one is removed because we have a certified CTR in there.
Okay, so the CTRs do remove, the position does get removed as they enter then?
Mrs. Varner, though, one point of clarification for the board. So the CTR will fulfill that role for the remainder of the year. They're not necessarily entitled to that position beyond this academic year, correct? But they do have the option to potentially apply and be considered a certified applicant at the conclusion of their CTR program.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, I call the vote.
Voting is open. Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is the bus safety concerns. This is a discussion and information item.
Mr. Tatham, am I okay to speak to this?
Yes.
During the last board meeting, discussion on this item related to the request for survey work to be done with all of our district drivers. We have a very brief, I think it's a 4 to 5 question survey that's been provided to all drivers, was in their mailboxes. Mr. Plum, those should be forthcoming to you and Cindy as drivers come in and check their mail. In addition, Mr. Plum had provided those reporting metrics from last academic year, the date that was referenced in May, in which there were 62 drivers who took part in that survey, and there were 0 references to being passed on their flashing reds for that particular given date. Board members, I think in your packets as well, Mr. Plum had provided me with a document this morning, and I went ahead and included in your packets. I think that's a comparative of Preston County. Let's see there. Steve, how did that read exactly? That was West Virginia comparative to other states, I believe. So you can kind of see the comparative issue in West Virginia related to other states. It's the document reads NASDPTS, that's a long acronym, 2024 survey on illegal passing of school buses, summary results. West Virginia is referenced with Sherry Sadler as the individual reporting. And again, you can kind of see the number of passes compared to other spots around the country. You know, obviously we have a lot less buses in action than some of these other states, but Mr. Plum felt it was prudent to provide some of this data as well. We do feel that the extender arms, Mr. Plum, I think you've already made inquiries with the vendor that was referenced to the board at the last meeting. I think the extender arms that were referenced there were approximately $450 per. You know, again, based on the survey results, we anticipate probably buying a small number of those and running those as a trial run on buses that drivers who have indicated that this has been an issue over the past year. The survey that you can see, board members, that's provided in your packets specified the number of, asked the driver to reference over from their recollection over the last year, how many occurrences can they recall. You know, I think we'll actually see more numbers there. When you're looking at one singular day, happen chance they may happen, it may not. I think this will give us a good view of where we have issues and where we don't. The other thing that was requested at the last meeting, Mr. Kisner, you had asked for just a brief protocol for when these situations occur, which was provided for the board's review as well. Very simple, that when an incident occurs following any illegal passing incident, drivers should radio into the bus garage to report the incident to the transportation staff members. Upon return to the garage, the transportation director will take a statement from the driver, and the impacted bus's video will be pulled for review in conjunction with the transportation director to determine if the vehicle making the illegal pass can be identified. If the vehicle can be identified, the transportation director would work in contact with the municipal or county police. And that was a question that was referenced by Mr. McCrum earlier. I would simply say it would be dependent upon where the occurrence takes place. Would kind of depend whether we would work with a municipal officer, or ideally, though, you know, we do obviously have an officer that's working in our schools every day. So Officer Lewis would probably be the primary contact in most instances. Any driver, and one thing I did clarify that was brought up as a concern, I spoke with Mrs. Anderson in payroll and indicated that no driver would be docked today if it's documented that they are appearing in court for a specific reason to identify, you know, a situation in which there's an occurrence of this nature, that the driver would be not docked a personal leave day as a result. And Erica had indicated that generally that's just coded in by Cindy and DeWeavis, and we make reference. We still have to ultimately go and get a sub, but the day wouldn't count again. And Katrina, correct, as far as your knowledge, that's how that's, yeah. But the only other thing I would say is just to try to assess the driver's knowledge, working knowledge of the protocol. That was one of the questions that was used in the survey implement as well. So, Mr. Tatum, that's all I have on this item at this time.
Okay, I just have 2 comments on that. For the protocol for that you just went over, can we make sure that that's communicated to the bus drivers, that they know the protocol? I don't know if that's on a poster at the bus, or even if you just print this and have each bus driver initial it, that they read it and they understand it, just so that everyone knows what the protocol is. That'd be the first thing. And then the questionnaire is going out today, is that right? Went out yesterday. Once those results come in, if that could be shared with us.
Yeah, what we'll do, Mr. Tatum, they're going to come in. Some of the drivers are more apt to fill out the online form, some are not. So I provide paper copies, and once those are submitted to us, we'll just input it into the Microsoft. I mean, that's just a printout from Microsoft Forms, so we'll just input the data so we have a nice, clean report to provide.
Okay. And how many bus drivers do we have?
I believe it was 57.
57 daily routes and 7 subs.
Okay.
So we have 57 drivers, so we should see about 57 to 60 questionnaires if you get your subs. Right? Okay. Other questions, comments?
I have a couple comments. So on that questionnaire, I guess I should have called before the meeting, but since it's an agenda, I waited. I'd like to have another question asked, and if they do know the protocol, and if they followed that, where did it stop? Did the person that they report get convicted, or did it ever even go to an officer?
Okay. Mr. Hervatter, we can probably follow up with the individual, since the driver, it does require them to identify their name, we should be able to follow up with them afterwards, that if they have had reported occurrences, we can certainly follow up to that effect.
Okay, and I spoke to a federal Department of Transportation officer this morning based out of Charleston, and he spent, I forget how many years, 8 or 10 years in the school system as a resource officer, and he said that was his job. And he did hundreds of cases and prosecuted, and had people prosecuted each time that he investigated it off of this video. And I mean, as many times as it's happened, one is too many. So we need to make sure we're pushing the issue that we can get as many people prosecuted and get this stopped. I mean, it's one kid getting ran over, I couldn't imagine. So
Yep.
we need to do everything we can to circumvent this issue. That's really all I had.
And to Jacob, since you're here, Mr. Martin, if this is an item that if any time you guys need an article to write, this could probably be a great article, and just mention that the school system is putting additional enforcement on it just to educate the public, and then what the laws are. We'd appreciate that if that's possible. Okay. Anything else on this topic? Okay. Next item on the agenda.
I'm going to excuse myself for a couple minutes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is the student transfer out exit interview process? Mr. Martin, do you want to start by updating us? What's new?
Sure. At the last meeting, we had the board had been provided with protocols for student dropout, current procedures, homeschool filing procedures, Hope Scholarship procedures. And based upon concerns expressed by the board and student member Manco, and we received, Colson, of course, provided a draft version of some questions he'd like to see implement, which in what has been put before you, we certainly tied in elements of what Colson requested and some of the original information that was brought forth during our last meeting. Again, this is a Microsoft forum that has been established. One thing that I would like to do, board members, of course, we have a principals meeting tomorrow, so I'd like to share this document with our principals and make sure that we have a clear process of how this would be administered. And I had Mrs. Zofchek review this document with me as well. And one thing we obviously want to try to start that at the school level when there's a request to withdraw for reasons of homeschool, pursuing other educational options. We can't mandate that the family fills this out, but we can certainly encourage it as such through the withdrawal process. If they do not, this form will ultimately be sent to Mrs. Zofchek's review so that when she's doing follow-up communications, particularly with homeschool and Hope Scholarship situations, that she can determine if this survey has been administered, and if not, again, try to encourage the family to complete this. One of the questions I thought was important is we're asking the families, do they want for us to basically check in annually to determine, to reassess, if they would want to reassess their educational options. If that family says definitively no, they don't want to do that, then we understand that's a family that's probably unlikely that we would be able to recoup back into the school district. But, this might be a short-term situation that's led the family to make this decision. So we want to certainly continue to put out inquiries that, we want them to come back and try to set up a procedural process that we know that, maybe set an interval when we are going to check back with them to determine if, public school option is what they're looking for in the coming year. So at this point, following an opportunity for the administrators to review this, we'd like to implement this as soon as possible.
Yeah, no, I appreciate this, Mr. Martin. Exactly what, we're moving in the right direction, I think, having this, showing that, we do recognize that we have flaws in our system, and showing that we're giving them the opportunity to say, this is why I'm leaving your system. That's great.
And one thing I would say is some of these questions are branched, that they won't necessarily answer. So for example, if you go to, and I know I was working with Mr. Sines on this, but for example, I'm trying to look here. Prior to your decision to withdraw, have you talked with or reported your concerns to school officials? Now, depending upon how they answer that, that will branch to the next question that they receive. And then when they go down, do you feel that your questions or concerns were answered, adequately addressed? Again, if they say no there, then that's going to branch them to question number 16 on how we could have more adequately addressed the concerns that were brought forth. So that's been set up in a manner that, again, based upon the response of the user, that they'll get certain questions based on their responses.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So my only thought, Mr. Martin, and again, I hate putting more work on somebody, so I'd be happy to, I think we could simplify it, but my question is, could we make the option of giving 2 survey options or having the first question be 16 questions, 5 of which about personal information like name and WEBIS number? I foresee many people ignoring this and skipping it just because they don't want to take the time. Whereas if we gave the option of I don't want anybody to contact me, I'm just going to tell you my issue, and just giving them the one, I feel like some people may be more apt to file their complaint per se. Like, people are happy to complain without giving all the, here's my name, and here's, under the guise of anonymity. I feel like we could get some data. So I don't know what your thoughts would be on having the option of the get-go saying, I would like to do the full survey, or I just want to leave my complaint and run.
We could provide a secondary survey option where some of these questions are considered optional versus required, because I believe I required all of them with the exception of question.
I'll be honest, if my kid was dropping out and you gave me this survey, I don't have a clue what their WEBIS number is, and as soon as I get to that mandatory question, you've got no chance of getting my information unless I decide to put an answer of you're stupid in that field. And I don't mean that you're stupid, I just mean how as a general consumer, when I get to a survey of that I'm fed up with something to the point of I just want to move on, what my answers tend to look like. And I may be a smaller individual than most in society, but.
No, I'll piggyback on what Mr. Kisner's saying. Like, I would say that if I had to find the WEBIS number, I probably would go back and look at a report card and maybe have to dig around for it. I'm not sure right off the bat.
It's their student number.
Yeah.
Like, usually the kids are very familiar with their student number, but.
I'm just saying but most parents probably aren't familiar with it. So what I'm getting at is I think another option would be keep the same survey, but not make everything required. So if somebody doesn't put it in, they can still go on. I think it'd be great
If we had a name, we could certainly ascertain the WEBIS number.
And if this is one of those things that if it's a form that we could go back and get this same record, that if it's feeding into a database, say if a staff member is, especially if they're following up and say, okay, I know John Doe's WEBIS number, I'm gonna go ahead and update it and put it in. But also if a principal or whoever, whatever human is contacting this family, it may be best just if the staff member can say, oh, you're withdrawing from the school or whatever, can I ask you a few questions? And the staff member just asks the questions. Maybe,
And put it on their
make
behalf.
quick notes and then type it into the system. I think we would get better results and probably more accurate results.
Understood.
By actually listening to them and hearing, okay, I think I'm hearing this, it sounds like that, as opposed to a parent rushing through it and not wanting to give the information.
Okay.
And don't get me wrong, Ms. Brown, I appreciate your thoroughness. I think it would all be great information to have. My concern is, and again, as soon as we make them non-mandatory, we lose the risk of not getting very useful data as well, right? So, there's a risk on both sides. I just know I foresee that we are already probably at some point of contention at the time of students exiting anyways. And I just don't know if they're going to be willing to put in the effort to.
We can cut out, again, student number, if that in particular, we can make some adjustments there. And I would concur with Mr. Tatham. I think that's a process where sometimes if you're talking with the parent in terms of filling that out on the parent's behalf, as long as they're comfortable in doing as such, that would still be useful data.
Yeah.
So, sure.
I agree with Mr. Kisner because I feel as if I'm more willing to take any kind of survey if it's anonymous. And maybe this is a silly question, but I don't really understand why we would need the student's name and WEBIS number. I understand like maybe grade level and gender to find like trends within the survey, but I thought the purpose of the survey was just to find the purpose or a trend in the reasoning of why we are seeing so many people leave. school. Is that incorrect? Am I understanding?
I wouldn't say that's incorrect, Brooklyn. I would say, though, if we know the specific student and the specific concern, it may still give us an opportunity to resolve. I mean, sometimes these things, we're not aware of them until much later. I mean, it would give us an opportunity to potentially try to address those issues, but, I mean, I can see both sides of it. The anonymity, you maybe get people more responsive, but it's hard to then fix the problem because you don't know who to fix it with.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I think it's important to have the student's name and even the school. I mean, like if you have two John Does, you don't know which one it is. Is it the one that's in third grade or the one that's in fifth grade at a different school? I personally don't see why you would need the Weavis number. That's just more of an
Well, I
internal
could say in this,
thing.
we could make that a non-required question and just input if you know it,
Yeah.
type deal.
But I think getting the student's name and then knowing the situation of why they're leaving, because then that allows us to cross-check it and say, is that really the case? Or what could we have done differently? And how can we learn from this
No,
situation?
but I understand what you're saying too, Brooklyn. I mean, that makes some sense as well in terms, you may get you get people more apt to want to provide you with information and provide more free-flowing information.
Do we wanna, I know Mr. Chafin mentioned it just a second ago, do we wanna add something in that asks for their school? That way we can see if there's trends in certain, if there's issues in local schools, then we can address those.
Well, you know what, that was a myth, that was just a myth. I don't think we haven't identified the school, so we'll get that updated.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments on this? Okay. And then after we start doing it, I'm sure we can modify it and change it as we go. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Preston County Opioid Settlement Advisory Board. I asked Mr. Martin to put this on the agenda. It's an action, discussion, and information item. It's recommended that the board approve myself, Lucas Tatham, to serve as the board's representative on the Preston County Opioid Advisory Board. Can I get a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, let me, 1 second, let me get to my ring. Okay, Mr. Zigray, second?
Second.
Okay, second by Mr. Kisner. Okay, so what this is, Mr. Raybeck asked me to serve on this a while back, and it took them a long time to get up and moving. We had one introductory meeting. The Preston County Commission has received, I think, around $500,000 at least a year ago from the state opioid settlement. The county commission has put that money into interest-bearing account. They are not going to spend the money until they have a solid plan on how they want to spend the money. So the advisory committee is made up of like Dr. Conley from the health department, Lola Burke from Mon General, the sheriff's on it, probation office, community corrections, a whole bunch of different people. They asked me to be on it for the school system. The advisory board will probably be meeting for at least a year to come up with a general plan and then presenting that plan to the county commission for the county commission to decide how they want to spend the money. The county commission is roughly, they have about $600,000 now. They have about $100,000 in additional interest, and they're ballparking that they may get another $500,000 over the next 10 years that would come in from it. So that would be the first part of what the advisory board is. At our first meeting, the advisory committee is planning on doing it two components, one being preventative education and one being kind of remediation, providing services for people that have an opioid or some type of drug issue. And so the committee wanted to know how involved and how helpful can the school system be, with the first request being, are we willing to do a survey of our students, of our teachers and staff members, of just general information of what's available, what type of quantities of students do you think have a need for it, what currently is being done in the school system to provide prevention, education, etc. So that's why it's on the agenda. What questions? And then I can give additional information that if I have it.
So I think anything, and I'm probably going to say words that somebody maybe get offended at here, but anything that stops drug addicts and drug abuse and criminals of that nature would be great. I have concerns everything in the 3-page email refers to SUDS. Does anybody in here know what SUDS is? That is how the medical field has decided that we are going to refer to criminal drug addicts, as substance use disorder, as opposed to what it is. And if you read everything they've put out, it is about removing the stigma of being a criminal drug addict and labeling somebody as such. So I will just say that I have no problem with putting surveys out through the school. I have no problem with the school helping with drug use and trying to stop that. But the first thing that the organization should make sure they're doing is talking in realistic terms about a realistic problem. And that is not, that's going to be just, if you're going to be the representative there, I would just say that is at least what my position is that we've got to be realistic with our youth as to what this is. And there should be a stigma about staying away from this. There should be a stigma about this is a bad area to enter life. So I'm all for anything that's helping youth.
Yeah.
But
I would say my response to that from being on one meeting is that you have people that are in that field that are medical doctors that are actively for their profession treating folks that are addicted to a drug. And so for the folks that are actively addicted to a drug, if there's a stigma on them within the medical community or say within DHHR, that if they say, hey, I have a drug problem, then if they don't tell someone that they have an issue, then they're not going to be able to get access to any of the services. So I think from what you're saying is that would be the other half of the program of how can this money is going to get spent somehow. And so the county commission's asking for a plan of how do we use it in the best way possible. And the committee, after one meeting, is just saying we probably want to split it into two parts. One part of the money going towards people that are actively have a drug addiction problem now, and what can we do with that? And the other half being preventative of how do we educate people on drug use and how to prevent that from happening. And on that second half is where the committee would like to be partners with the school system, because the school system has access to the greatest quantity of people that are of young age that need information on drug avoidance.
yeah, and I'm just saying, we don't want to paint this with rose-colored glasses presenting it to our youth, right? We want to be realistic and use real terms that are real in society. So that's, again, I think that working with them, and if Mr. Martin doesn't believe that there's an issue or a conflict with the school, I just would say that that's the one thing is, they're asking, would we be open to a relationship? And I'm saying I'm open to that, but we need to talk about it in realistic terms that have real solutions, that have real effects on our youth, is where my position's at.
And I think they would agree with that. I'm all for it. Any other questions or comments? Okay. All right, I'll call the vote.
Voting is open.
And thank you,
Motion
Mr.
passes 5-0.
Thank you, Mr. Tatham, for your willingness to take time into another set of meetings on your average month.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is a potential work session targeting attendance and discipline. This is an action, discussion, information item. I asked Mr. Martin to put this on the agenda for today. I'd had actually two conversations with Judge Bright, one before she was sworn in and then one right during that time. And basically, she was asking me questions on what the school system is doing to target attendance. And I informed her that I don't know the exact date, but I think about 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago, we'd had a work session with Judge Schaefer, magistrate judges, sheriff's department, et cetera, regarding vaping and drug use. And I suggested and asked her if she would be interested in another round of the work session. So in essence, for three of the board members, you can remember the work session that we had before, this would kind of be a follow-up with that of doing it again, but broadening it to not just drug use, but also attendance and discipline. So we listed it as an action item. I don't know if it necessarily has to be. I just want to get everyone's feedback on, do we see benefit in doing that and following up on the one we had 2 years ago?
I personally think this is such an awesome idea that we should make it a yearly thing, like to check in with those that are in our local government in these positions and say, here's what the school is seeing trending, and here's what you're seeing, and how do we, like, I think it should just be a yearly thing, personally.
I agree.
Would we like just to ask Mr. Martin if he can, through your executive secretary, if you can round up all the different peoples and to see when we can meet?
Typically, these individuals will often want to work on a daytime, I mean, is it an issue daytime versus evening? Is there any
I think we need to
Any
defer.
preference there?
Yeah, I think, let's say we need to defer to them. I mean, you have two judges that are probably have very busy schedules, so
Okay,
I would start with them and the sheriff, and then work your way down.
Okay.
People's flexibility schedules.
I know Judge Schaefer loves Sunday morning meetings.
Well, I can make those contacts, Mr. Tatham, and we'll get something established in
Okay.
the future. We'll communicate the dates and make sure the board's availability as well.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is needed updating Preston County Schools website. This is a discussion and information item. Mr. Martin?
Yes, this was brought forth by concerned citizen William Canoy. Mr. Canoy had asked for consideration or consolidation of the county BOE meetings. Currently, they're spread amongst multiple YouTube accounts, which I'm working to try to get those consolidated. In addition, he had expressed concerns about the board doc search tool and some inaccurate or dead links on the Board of Education website. And speaking with Mr. Hogue, I mean, he's trying to schedule a set time to basically review, and unfortunately, Mr. Hogue had to step out. He's going to be assisting with the setup for the science fair. But he'd indicated is going to try to bring about a systematic approach in reviewing specific sections of the website, making updates and so forth. I have no issue with reaching out to Mr. Canoy as well, just to ask for, some suggestions from, he'd indicated he's worked in the industry, so we're certainly open to suggestions or recommendations on how we can potentially improve said website. Beyond that, Mr. Tatham, I don't have anything else.
Is there any questions from board members regarding this item?
Can all of like the board,
Sorry?
can all the board meeting links be posted on the county website somewhere so it's more accessible instead of
They are.
having to go through, they are on there?
Yeah, that's what when he had made an inquiry, I'd referenced them to there to find them.
They're all linked on the website currently? Okay.
So I know Mr. Canoy's listening because I've received at least one email from him since the meeting started. And I had a talk with him the other day. He is active in the industry. My background is in similar industry. I don't disagree that from people who were from that it is not the best situation. I would agree with that. I would also say that we have higher priorities in general than consolidating all the YouTubes into one place. Now, I would say moving forward, we'd want to be consistent and try to do that. Now, again, if it's something you're able to make happen in a relatively quick and easy thing, but if this is something that you and Mr. Sines have already spent 4 hours on and you got 4 or 8 more to go, I mean, at that point in time, I'd make sure we have a link someplace that says go here if you want to see the rest of them. But I mean, again, we have limited resources at the end of the day for all of our technology needs. I do think as somebody who watches any meeting that I've missed and had sometimes go back and listen to them, it would be good if we were able to have better sound. It is difficult listening to our meetings. People that are trying to participate, and I encourage people participating in government, and that's what participating is. So I think if there is a simple solution, even if it took some kind of investment where we had better audio going with our meetings, I think that would be good. But again, we've got kids that can't read that are graduating high school. That's our top priority, right? No offense to anybody that's a teacher or anybody that's over that, but I'm just saying, like, this is our priority, is educating students.
I think our school-based meetings, it is more of a struggle versus here at the boardroom when we have the system set up. I would say, though, in terms of trying to, I have to do the minutes for them, and I rarely have had issues in terms of being able to utilize the existing audio to complete minutes.
Yeah. I've always been able to get it. Very seldom have I ever had something that I couldn't. Sometimes I have to have the rest of my volume, and as soon as my computer chimes, I'm deaf. But I've always been able to do it. And again,
If I use headphones, I'm good.
Yeah, we do. It does work. It is not a great experience always, but anyways, I mean, that's just my feedback as somebody. I agree, it's not the best presentation, but no, we don't. We don't have a full-time website guy. We got a website guy that also does nutrition and communicate. All these things. We don't have Mr. Sines is not sitting around waiting to fix something with our technology. So, again, in a perfect world, in private industry, we would have a lot of different ways to solve these things, and we wouldn't care about the cost because we're sellers. But we're not. We're price takers. We are price takers, not price makers. We are not free competing in the same arena. So again, I appreciate his feedback and that Mr. Kanoy is participating in our process.
Yeah.
And I think his feedback has value as somebody who is in that industry. But I do think we have to weigh that against whatever resources we're going to spend on it. So again, I don't know what kind of time you guys already have or what kind of time you're thinking about for the YouTube thing.
Well, no, I don't know in terms of just getting the YouTube in one channel. I don't believe that's, the other thing I might have to do is just re-upload the videos. I mean, that's what it would get down to. But I can certainly reach out and any feedback that he could provide in terms of improvement to the web experience, I'm more than willing to do that.
Okay. Thank you. Next on the agenda is the superintendent's report.
Okay. Board members, you have two updates. I provided last week's and this morning's update that have been sent to all staff members. From the sixth update, I did want to call, again, many of you were able to attend the CTE retail store ribbon cutting ceremony. The store was actually able to open back in December, and the idea is now I believe it will be open on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 2:30 to 6 with consistent hours. And there can be an expansion of hours for obviously special events, and I'm sure when in the spring with the greenhouse, there'll be an expansion of hours associated with that. So appreciate everyone who was able to attend that event. Obviously in this package, the early notice for retirement incentive was listed in both. That was something I believe that Mr. McCrum asked about earlier as well. Those notifications can come in through March, and those are submitted March 1st, and those are specifically submitted to Mrs. Varner's attention, my attention, Kristen and Autumn. As it stands, the state, we only have state monies to provide a $500 bonus related to professional personnel. Districts do have discretion if they chose to provide bonus to service personnel, but there's no designated state monies for it as such. From that document, I think that's probably the big stuff. From today's superintendent update, of course, we have a scheduled legislative work session with our 4 representatives scheduled for Tuesday, January 21st at 5:30 p.m. Obviously, right now, Senate President Smith, Senators Taylor, Delegates Jennings, and Delegate Street have all indicated their intent to attend. We will certainly encourage our employees. We would like the general public to attend that as well. We feel there are a lot of pressing educational issues, that it's important that we are able to communicate our feelings on some of these matters in advance of the legislative session that will be starting in February. If you're looking at upcoming events, obviously this week we do have the Science Fair. The Science Fair County Award Ceremony will be taking place tomorrow evening at the Kingwood Volunteer Fire Department beginning at 7 p.m. We have Math Field Day is actually scheduled next Tuesday, the same day as our legislative session. And our next board meeting is going to be scheduled over at the West Preston School at 6 p.m. for the LSIC and curriculum team presentations on the 27th. Board members, I do want to let you know there's a possibility we may change the locations. The meeting scheduled at Preston High in February, we might possibly change dates with South Preston. Mr. Hoyt has indicated he would be in attendance at the Youth and Government Seminar. Mr. Seymour, I know we spoke this morning, you were going to check with your team to see the possibility of possibly trading out dates with South Preston. If that does occur, we'll make sure that we get that proper notifications up. Those were both going to be LSIC meetings. It's just a matter we may do the South Preston one on the scheduled night for Preston High and vice versa. I'm just trying to see anything else from today's packet. The retirement, early retirement. Did want to point out too, and I think this was mentioned at a previous board meeting, the State Department is basically sponsoring what's called LETRS training, and that's Language Essentials for Teachers of Reading and Spelling. This is primarily for K-3 teachers and administrators. It involves, Mrs. Rush, correct me, they have the completion of 2, it's not units, 2 volumes, and I said that wrong here. But 2 volumes, which it's an extensive amount of time for completion of both volumes. I mean, probably 125 hours plus for completion work. We are talking about the provision of a stipend for individuals who would complete this work. There's been the State Department actually did a large-scale survey showing what other districts were doing in terms of potential compensation for completers. And Mrs. Rush, at this time, we have approximately 10 to 12 participants signed up in the first cohort group, and then there'll be a second cohort group that's being sponsored sometime later this spring.
Yes, and then there's 3 total, so they'll start in the spring and then again in the fall.
Okay. But pertinent board members, pertinent information to the letters program is included in the packets, and I think we'd had some information to this effect on an earlier agenda. Mrs. Anderson also asked for the meaningful notice, plan summary information to be noted in the packets as well, making people aware of our 403B plan options available for personnel. Now, in terms of my update, I do want to begin on a sad note, obviously recognizing the tragic loss of a student that occurred in early January. We lost West Preston 4th grade student Lane Sines in a terribly tragic event. Lane was a wonderful young man, outstanding student athlete, and was beloved by friends, family, and teachers. We've tried to provide resources to West Preston today and will continue to provide resources needed for students and staff based upon this terrible tragedy. In addition, I also wanted to recognize the recent passing of Mrs. Marion Mace. Mrs. Mace, I kind of read through her obituary, and she was, if those of you who've met and talked with Marion, she was really quite a woman. In the 1960s, Mrs. Mace operated a kindergarten program out of her home. In 1980, she was the first female elected to the Preston County Board of Education. Mrs. Mace also tirelessly worked on behalf of the society, the preservation of the McGrew Society, helped in the establishment, was really responsible for the establishment of the Order of the Rhododendron, which recognizes top students in the study of West Virginia history. Mrs. Mace was a winner of the Golden Horseshoe Award in 1940. In 2017, I crafted an application on her behalf in which she was awarded an honorary Golden Horseshoe, which I was so happy to see that occur. So Mrs. Mace will certainly be, it's been a very difficult time for our schools and for our county, certainly 2 tremendous individuals who were lost recently. Coming back from our Christmas break, well, obviously, board members, we've experienced significant winter weather that's kept our students out all last week. We are happy that we were able to get in today on a 2-hour early dismissal. 2-hour delay this morning. At this time, we are going to continue to assess. We are projecting quite frigid temperatures over the next few days. We'll obviously continue to try to assess what will be the right call in terms of any potential delays, cancellations, and so forth. At this time, based upon the use of our snow days and brain freeze days, we have 1 brain freeze day left and 1 regular snow day left. Any days used beyond those 2 will then require us to add additional days to the academic calendar. We could obviously look at in and around the spring break section and at the back end of the calendar to potentially add time. We weren't in a terribly different circumstance last year. We were probably a little better off at this point last year. Let's cross our fingers and hope we have a really mild remainder of January and February. And of course, we know in Preston County, we can even get snow days in March and April. So I'm hopeful that we'll have a light winter the rest of the way because we have certainly used more days than I think any of us would like to see. Based on these lost instructional days, there will be consideration to extending the first semester. We didn't want to make that decision until we'd had an opportunity to meet with our administrative group. That's an impact on all of our schools, but Mr. Seymour, I think particularly at the high school, so we obviously wanted to get your feedback before we would make an official decision, but we are tentatively at least considering maybe extending it into the following week to add some additional days, because we do anticipate the strong likelihood that we may have to add additional instructional days on the back end of the calendar as it looks currently. Tonight will be set up for the County Science Fair from 5 to 7 p.m. I know that Mr. Hogue and Mr. Schmidl stepped out to provide assistance. Certainly appreciate the efforts of our coordinator, Mrs. Zigray, and her efforts with the Science Fair each year. Award ceremony, again, will be scheduled for tomorrow evening at 7. We have pre-K and kindergarten registration is scheduled for Friday, January 17th. That is almost inevitably a day that I could just schedule a snow day in conjunction with that. I'm looking at the weather. I think we may be okay this year, but that's been a notoriously bad day for weather when we schedule that event. So we hope we get good weather this year. We have received notice from the Child Nutrition Program. We will be receiving an in-person audit in mid-February. Did want to point out applications to be received through January 31st for students interested in enrolling in our virtual program for the second semester. I also wanted to commend Mrs. Kelly for her submission of a grant in which we have received a successful grant, close to about 98,000, give or take, that would be, we anticipate to be able to assist in the hiring of a second AEP teacher. We have a second pending grant that we have high hopes that we may get portions of that grant as well. Phone project, as Mr. Sines alluded to earlier, is we anticipate will be underway in the next week. Work will be completed during the course of January. Mr. Sines has also put an RFP out for internet service. It should be noted that if the proposal itself does not improve like our cost point for internet services, we are not required to accept the contract offers that are put forth. We have one additional year option in which we can continue to use Frontier services. Within that contract, we are able to eliminate service, for example, at Fellows,ville or Rollsburg if we weren't actively using those buildings next year. Work has been finalized on the PHS Secure Entry and Exterior Door project. The Electronic Specialties was able to get in. Mr. Seymour, I believe Mr. Hamilton was able to get the door in the main office. That issue has now been fixed. Matt has told me he will be back next week to do the connector door and the door at the end of the vocational building. At that juncture, we can wrap up that work associated with the work at the high school. In addition, Mr. Murray alluded to, the next major project will be the Kingwood Elementary Secure Entryway and Exterior Door project. This is in conjunction with the School Building Authority. We have two submitted architecture firms, Thrasher and Williamson Shriver, have submitted applications for review. We'll be scheduling interviews, and again, the SBA has provided us with defined questions and rubric for use in assessing those two vendors. We've already mentioned the legislative session, CT retail store we've mentioned. Mrs. Varner, anything you'd want to update in relation to personnel at this time? I do want to thank Mrs. Varner. If you notice, the floors are much, much shinier in here today. Angie took it upon herself right before the Christmas break to get this area waxed, hallway and the main lobby. I think it looks much, much better. And Angie, thank you for your time and efforts on that point. I can only claim putting, I think, one coat in here on half the floor. So Mrs. Varner definitely went above and beyond in doing that work. And Angie, thank you for your efforts there. Our next scheduled meeting is scheduled for January 27th at 6 p.m. at West Preston. However, as referenced, we do have a special meeting scheduled on the 21st at 5:30. And we've already talked about the possible switching of dates between South Preston and Preston High School. Mr. Tatham, that's all I have at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Is there any questions or comments from board members?
I just want to say thanks on behalf of the family for everything you put in place for Lane.
Yep.
Even today, they prepared all the students before his younger siblings went to school, so.
You know, I'm glad to hear that. This is a terrible tragedy. Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the out-of-state field trips. There's currently none scheduled on this agenda. Next, we have the chaperone and volunteer list. This is an action item. It's recommended that the board approve the chaperone list for Terrata East Preston School and the volunteer list for Brewston School. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Hovatter, second by Mr. Zigray. Okay, those documents are available. Are there any questions or comments?
And I would say both principals indicated they have the required disclosure statements on hand.
Thank you. Is there any questions from board members? Okay. Call the vote.
Voting is open. Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, next we have ongoing literacy discussion. There's nothing in the agenda for content, but since we have Mrs. Rush here, is there any questions from board members or anything that you would like to update us with verbally?
We're getting ready to test mid-year, so once that happens, I'll have a bunch more for you. Update on that.
Okay.
And Ms. Rush, I think you're scheduled to be on the agenda, I don't know if it's the next meeting or the meeting after that. Right.
Okay. Next on the agenda is the professional meeting. This is an action, discussion, and information item. It's recommended that the board approve the submitted out-of-state professional meeting.
So moved.
Okay. Moved by Mr. Kisner,
Second.
second by Mr. Hovatter. Okay, that information is available to you. Is there anything that you'd like to add to it, Mr. Martin, or any discussion?
I don't believe so. Mrs. Rush, is there anything you'd want to add in the specifics of this conference?
Not unless there's questions, it's just some MTSS topics, and then there's no cost for registration.
It's just registration, there's no cost for? The way I read it was no cost for registration, lodging, or travel.
Correct, there'll be
Yeah.
some like ancillary,
Yeah.
that doesn't get covered, but most of it's covered.
Okay, so for the public who's listening, you're going on a cruise to Jamaica that happens to be going through Tennessee, and it's going to cost us $500,000 that we could have used to improve children's academic careers, but instead, thank you.
I'll call the vote.
Voting is open. Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, the next item is Preston County Schools Policy 11-22, Student Publications. This is a discussion, information, and action item. Recommend that the board approve the revision to Preston County Schools Policy 11-22, Student Publications on second read and for final approval. Mr. Martin, is there anything you would like to tell us?
The only thing I marked in yellow was based on feedback from the last meeting, there was a slight modification was made to the timely opportunity to appeal section, in which there was a defined number of days, I believe, for potential review by a sponsor, and then the typographical that was referenced was corrected as well. So those have been corrected in conjunction with the policy. If this is ultimately approved by the board, of course, we would get this updated in our policy manuals minus all the highlighting.
Okay, so before we go to board comments, can I get a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, moved by Mr. Zigray.
Second.
Okay, second by Mr. Kisner. Okay, board input? Is there anything else we want to see on it? Are we happy with it at this point? Okay, call the vote.
Voting is open. Motion passes 5-0. Mr. Tatham, I would like to again commend Mrs. Arbogast and her students for their efforts in terms of pulling together this policy. I think they did a great job. You know, this was a process where the kids worked collectively with their educator to bring this forth. You know, we reviewed, had to make some level of modification, but I really think this is the kind of the process that we like to see in the development of our policy. So certainly appreciate her efforts and the students' efforts.
Most definitely. Okay, next on the agenda is the contract review as per policy 8200. However, there's no items listed for this agenda. So we'll move to the levy check report from December 16th, 2024. This is information item. A report of the levy expenditures approved at the 12/16/24 meeting of the board is posted in the public file section below. Is there any comments or questions from board members?
Ms. Kirster, how much of this money do we have left, if any?
And the levy in total, that's across everything. And in November, we had about 7.4 million left. Bulk of it is in construction, which as soon as the projects move, will go.
So most of that's encumbered in one way?
It's not encumbered per se, but yeah, is planned.
Right. That happened to be Kingwood Elementary's front door.
Yeah, that half that we're gonna do for that.
35%, I think, is
Yeah, and then other projects that we will need to move forward with as we get them.
Thank you.
Ms. Kurtzetter, do you think for the next meeting on the 27th that the spreadsheet will be provided to us, will be updated? Okay, would you be able to put some notes on there, just what those projects are, and so we can get a rough idea, or?
That's probably gonna have to be from Mr. Murray. I don't keep up, that's where he is with those projects, and this is, I'm not.
I can work with you to get some major experience.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, if we take the report of what's left, what's been encumbered, and how much is outstanding.
Mrs. Kirsten, I know with the reporting that's come out, is the encumbrance for the Kingwood Elementary project, has that already been factored in, or is that? You know what I'm talking, the 35% of the,
I'm trying to think about some PO for it, and I don't recall.
so I don't think it is, so I mean, that's a large one for sure, and I know.
No, because it would, the architect's not even done.
We have a pretty large HVAC, project scheduled for West Preston as well.
It is encumbered at the moment, but not on that report.
Right.
Yeah, so my memory of the last report was like there's 4 million left of levy for maintenance, construction, I think.
Yes.
Huh?
Yeah, the other big,
Well, I know we'll go through it, I'm just saying that's my memory, that there was 4 million in maintenance left, but some of that we know is Kingwood, wherever, but,
that's the bulk of it there, but.
And board members, I would say, in reviewing the CEFP document, I mean, that's what's going to guide a lot of our decision-making in terms of additional levy-based projects related to maintenance.
okay. And then likewise, for the remaining, I know there's money left for positions, there's instructional supplies. Can we get an update on what the plan is of spending that money out? Because, I mean, it was,
For as far as everything that goes to the schools has been allocated to the schools, and if they spend it, then it's spent, and it's gone. Because I've already had to kind of backfill a little bit, because I gave them a little bit more. So we've gotten extra money this year, which is due for a little while. They've had to fill it because it's been put in last year, but, no, it will be gone. This year, they spend their allocation.
okay. But can we get that updated for the next board meeting so we can look at that? Okay, other comments regarding the levy check reports? Okay, not seeing any. Okay, the next item is the schedule of checks to be written. This is an action item. It's recommended that we approve the schedule of checks to be written. Can I get a motion, please?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, moved by Mr. Zigray,
Second.
second by Mr. Hovatter. Okay, comments and questions?
I have a couple questions. Page 2, it says CDL renewal fiscal year '25. What position is that?
Where is it exactly, Mr. Herbetter?
About middle of the page. I'm sure that's employee names, I don't want to. My question is just what position is, if it's something we do for all the people that hold that
Maybe
position?
pull the mic.
Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Do we do it for all bus drivers?
I'm not certain of the circumstance. I mean, that is a current driver for us, Mr. Hovatter. I'll find out. I'll speak with Mr. Plum and obviously Mrs. Kirster to ascertain what our processes are in terms of CDL licensure.
I didn't know if that's just policy while we're paying for, I mean, they hold that, that's their, I mean, it's not a lot of money, but over time it adds
Right.
up. But I mean, that's their license for their personal use, so they could leave us and go to work anywhere and use that. So why are we paying for that? That's just the question I have, why are we paying for all these?
Good question. Okay.
Also, underneath category Sunrise, I'm assuming that should be fiscal year '25, not 15? 1, 2, 3, 4. I didn't know if that, I mean, that needs to be corrected if we're going to.
What page is that on, Mr. Hovatter?
Page 5, bottom of the page, Sunrise Sanitation says garbage services for the schools. Just says FY15. I mean, it's just a typo, but we're approving this, so it should be fixed. Right?
Okay.
So, that's it.
Page 5, Sunrise.
Okay, other comments or questions? Okay, thank you. Okay, call the vote.
Voting is open. Motion passes 5-0. Mr. Hovatter, I'll get an answer for you, and then I'll send it to you by email.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is budget journal entries 116, 130, 134, and 135. This is an action item. It's recommended that the board approve the budget journal entries. This is for CSI, ATS workshop stipends, CPI trainer certifications, rewards for ASE and summer school, and magazine donation. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Kisner.
Second.
Second by Mr. Zigray. Okay, any comments or questions? Not hearing any? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. I call the vote.
Voting is open. Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is possible allocations for Aurora School related to possible school closures, mergers. This was on the agenda at the request of Mr. Kisner at our prior meeting. This is a discussion and information item.
Mr. Tatham, I did note that I have not made any substantial progress on this matter since the last meeting, but I know that Mr. Kisner requested we want to have this as an ongoing matter, so as we make progress, I'll update accordingly.
Okay. Okay, then moving on. Accounting procedures for schools. This is an action and discussion information item, and this is an update from the previous meeting. Mr. Martin?
Yeah, I just tried to make updates in yellow. So in review of the previous meeting, went to Mrs. Kerstetter. I do have the paperwork for several boost or support organizations. Those are referenced in the topic. That does not represent all of our schools at this time. We will work with administrators tomorrow for some of the pending requests that are not currently in. But it would be my objective to try to bring forth a listing of the support organizations for the board's review and potential approval by the meeting on the 27th. Again, you can see the current ones that have completed packets. We have 2 partial packets. And again, I'm going to work with the schools for those who have organizations that are not represented amongst this list. In regards to the fundraising requests, just speaking with Mrs. Kerstetter, we just would like clarification as to what the board is, what they ultimately want to see here. Are you seeking approval of fundraising requests? Would you simply like to see that they are publicly posted? Just would like clarification through discussion as to what the expectations are.
For me personally, my expectation is not that the board would approve individual fundraising. I don't think, unless I overlooked it in local county policy, but there's nothing in state policy that requires that. It says that the principals approve the fundraisers. So I would say that we should just be updated. For me personally, I would say the board should just be updated, whether that's annually, semi-annually, or if it just automatically goes to a website or dumped in of what the fundraisers are. If the principals are approving it, I think it would be okay to see what the fundraisers are so that we know what's going on in the community but that's my personal opinion. What do you guys think?
I don't think the board should have to approve all of the fundraisers.
Yeah, so I said, I don't think they should approve it,
Okay.
but do you feel that we should be informed
Be
of
aware
it?
of them.
Yeah, should we be aware of it?
Mrs. Kerstetter, from the standpoint of when these are submitted, I know that you and I both have to sign off on those documents. Do you then create a Excel? So, I mean, board members, would we want to be updated at some interval with that Excel document as to the?
Because it's as it comes in. I mean, it's just a literal running list. They get assigned number because in the school system, they have to use their assigned number to track profit and loss forms and everything in their system. So that's why they click it. It's just it's a little jumbled, but it's there. It's all listed and stuff.
Is it an Excel or a Google Doc like what Mr. Stein set up for the?
Because the forms come in paper. And then I submit the data that I need. Now, if you're looking for something more specific, I would have to alter that.
I was just thinking like what Mr. Sines had put together for the maintenance department, where it was just a shared Google Doc, that if it was in there, like it's as simple as sharing that with board members or making it an item with the
No, we have the
maintenance, or, like-
forms. I mean, we keep the submitted forms,
Yeah.
like in a 3-ring binder. But in terms of probably in a digital format, which would be probably the most digestible, would be the Excel that we would update at some frequency. That's of the board's.
For me personally, I'm all about what information that you already have, so it's not creating any additional information.
If you're just looking at what's listed is the date I received it, it's approved or whatever, the date of the fundraiser spans. I try to do like a title, they give me a title, I deduce what it actually is, the fundraiser's for, like they're selling in the group, the school, that's what I generally have on there.
And then they do a profit and loss statement
There's,
after.
but yeah, in the system, if it's through our school system, then yeah, they'll produce it. If it's an outside group, there's a form that's in the handbook that they're supposed to.
And then does anyone ever look over those profit and loss forms?
I
Just
get some of them, I don't get all of that.
And
But they're all in the system, and some are in the system.
when you say the system, what is the system?
The school finance online, which is what the schools use. They're like, means.
Okay. And so they do a profit and loss and say, okay, this fundraiser made this much money, type of a thing. But that profit or loss doesn't get keyed into your Excel spreadsheet, does it? It does not. I mean, at this point, because I don't want to micromanage, if the principals are supposed to be approving fundraisers, I think then it's reasonable. And if you're already tracking which ones have been approved, why don't we just provide a copy of that Excel sheet like we do the levy reconciliation sheet in a public document so that the public can see what fundraisers we're doing, because that should be no additional work, right? And then we can see what we're working with, and if we want to ask for more later on, then we would know where to start to ask, is my opinion, but.
Is this going to be information used for
Pull that mic down, Mike.
the information? Are you basically wanting it to show, say, the soccer team goes onto a tournament and we want to show that they fund, I mean, ultimately, is that what you're trying to do, is just show where the money comes from so that we're not getting criticized or critiqued
Yeah,
on
well-
every move that these kids do? I mean.
Yeah, I would say from my perspective is we have had people that have addressed the board that have asked, what are the athletic boosters doing? What are they spending their money on, et cetera? And that's something that I know as one board member, I have no way to answer that question because I have no idea what the athletic boosters is doing. But all the information from the athletic boosters by law is supposed to be public because it's a public institution. And I'm hearing that we do have that information, but I wouldn't know where or how to start getting that information. So my goal is just, if it's information that we're required to have and it's supposed to be available to the public, let's start making that available to the public in some format. And then if later on we design a better, more robust system that we automatically upload it to our website so people can see it at home, then that's fabulous. But I think that's down the road.
Gotcha.
Further. Does that help answer your question?
Well, yeah, but I was hoping it's kind of help, I mean, with the way you're doing it now, can you present it that way?
It's in the PDF of that document.
Because she wasn't at the meeting, we talked about it the last time, so I was just, clarification that,
You would just keep seeing the add-ons, that's all.
PDF, that's just the fundraiser request, so we know what organizations at what schools are doing what. I mean, that's not going to give us a whole lot of information, but at least we know, if somebody wanted to know, is this organization really doing a fundraiser for this, then they could find that information. They would have to search through our meeting agendas, but then it's available. I mean, that's the first step. It's not perfect, but that's definitely a great first step.
But yours is only tracking school fundraisers. So like, if second grade selling suckers at Terre Haute East Preston, they have to ask for a request, they have to submit that, and you would pass it. But if PHS Athletic Boosters was doing fundraiser, that does not.
Supposed to submit it too.
They're supposed to.
Okay.
Submit it to me.
They're supposed to.
Yeah.
Okay,
Per, state policy of a, support group and, all that, they're supposed to. Do they?
But for me personally, to answer your question, I want to fix all those supposed
Right.
tos. Because all those supposed tos need to be must dos, because that's what the law says. And the way that we as a board can fix those supposed tos and make her job much easier is we can require that information to start being available. And we can do two things with that. We look at the approved fundraisers and we see on there, oh, there's nothing for the athletic boosters. However, the athletic boosters by law have to provide us a copy of their bank statement and a profit and loss for every single one of their fundraisers. And then we compare it back to the list and say, that's not approved. And then we nicely tell everyone, hey, this is the laws, let's do it, and we're all watching. And I think a lot of those supposed tos are going to be fixed. Because everyone's going to know. And I'm not singling out any athletic booster or anything. I'm just saying, because I've been a part of these organizations too, I think we all do a lot. We're all doing it on volunteer effort. And we don't necessarily know what we're supposed to be doing, but I think we can fix a lot of this very easily by just communicating. So, anything else, or? Cross?
No, I mean, that's all fine. I guess what do you perceive as being the teeth? What's going to hurt? And again, not to pick on PHS athletic boosters, but we've mentioned them. So let's say what is the repercussion to them if they don't do that?
I wouldn't necessarily say I don't know what the repercussions would be. I don't have that answer at this point.
Okay.
Other than what's the repercussions if we don't do any of this kind of stuff is that, I mean, it's the law. That's the only thing that I can say is this is state board policy. It has the effect of law that fundraisers are supposed to be approved and we're supposed to see the documentation. Yes, Mr. Seymour?
I mean, I think the repercussion is if you don't do it, I don't approve. If I don't approve the fundraiser, you can't do it.
Well, they can do it. There's absolutely nothing that will preclude them from having the fundraiser. The question is whether or not PHS will benefit from the funds at that point in time. Like, you're the one that will get hurt. Now, again, I'm not opposed to anything. I'm saying this is why I think that ultimately our first step has to be that we are publishing a list of organizations that are approved partners of ours, is because then at least we have something. Now, it's not a great deal of teeth, but it's something that says at least, like, these are organizations that are truly partnered with us and that are giving us their data and can
Mr.
stop dinging us on our audits and all this.
And Mr. Kisner, it'll be I intend to have a list at least where we stand right now.
Yes.
That has to be a starting point for us, and we then progress forward. But yes.
Again, that's fine. I mean, I'm not opposed to any of this. We want to get in compliance and we want to be able to say that we're doing what we're supposed to. I mean, we want to be doing what we're supposed to be doing. Not saying that we're doing. We want to be doing what we're supposed to do. So I'm all for all of it.
And the ability to easily see that we're doing it and not just say that we're doing it. So I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah, I did not fully understand that even an associated organization had to request their fundraiser to the principal and to you. When somebody requests to be, so these packets that we're collecting, when they request that, do we send them a letter that says, here's the list of requirements of what you have to do to continue to do this?
They actually have to sign that packet, the president, and it has it's about a page, it's about a page of requirements of what they are signing to to or acknowledge.
Okay, so if somebody signs that and in 23-24, they sign that, in 24-25, they haven't provided us any bank statements, are we automatically denying their request until they get in compliance? Or do we have something that we're connecting the dots on and pushing back with? And that's
I
a
would
question.
imagine that we currently don't, and that's the board's fault. That's not their fault. We have not specified our policy at all, ever. And this came out in 2012. This is not an employee's fault. This is a board fault.
Yeah.
I mean, so we need to direct them. I think we need to start by getting the information that we have in-house, and we need to look at that information, and then we need to decide what the repercussions are.
Okay, so that's part of the big thing. And again, just following up from the last meeting and full circle, that's part of what we're doing is developing a policy.
I think
and
right
that
now
was why you want to know what their policy was.
Yeah, I want to know what information we currently have and what we're doing so that we can see where we're great at and we can check off and where our holes are. And let's get all the information together, then let's develop the policy.
Gotcha, okay.
Okay? Any comments, questions? Thank you. And I appreciate everything that's being done already on this. And hopefully this makes your job easier. And we could be the bad guys for you, because ultimately, we're the ones that are legally responsible. Okay. Next on the agenda is the maintenance work order system update. This is an information item. Is there any additional questions? I know we had Mr. Murray already give us a lot of information.
I don't really have any useful thing, but I feel like I should talk for at least 10 minutes so we don't get out until after 4.
You can say that. Okay. Before we go to adjournment, what items need to be added for the agenda for the next meeting?
Mr. Tatham, I will bring back the accounting procedures for schools, as some of the action steps are listed there. We'll certainly try to address some of these other items that have been ongoing issues and bring information forth. From just,
Okay.
at this point, just seeking anything new the board's requesting.
Thank you. Yeah, anything new? New. Okay, I'm not seeing anything then. I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hovatter,
Second.
second by Mrs. Miller. Okay, any questions or discussion? Okay, not hearing any, I call the vote.
Voting is open. Motion passes at 3:52.
All right, thank you, everyone. This meeting is adjourned.